Well, of course, we know that AfriForum is representing the Meyiwa family, and the organisation's Barry Bateman, yes, a former colleague of the eNCA, joins us from Pretoria to discuss the latest revelations and what they really mean for the trial. Barry, great to see you again. Thank you so much for joining us. So, I think we were all completely shocked yesterday when Advocate Tefo just came out and said, I have a witness that's going to testify that Kelly Khumalo shot and killed Senzo Meyiwa, but she did it by mistake. Is this kind of thing from a defence lawyer unusual in South Africa? I mean, I've seen this sort of thing in TV crime legal series, but I don't know if it's that usual here in South Africa.
Well, you know, a defense attorney putting it to a state witness that they will call any witness to come and present certain kind of evidence is certainly not unusual. But we were surprised yesterday by this revelation by Advocate Tefo. Our position as AfriForum Private Prosecution Unit is, first off, we need to establish whether we both got the same interpretation of eyewitness, because on our understanding of the evidence that's in the docket that's being presented by the state, there is in fact no eyewitness, anybody who was in that room that witnessed the crime taking place. So we are very surprised to hear this from Advocate Tefo, and if this is the case, it's a very, very serious submission that he's made. We would like to see this evidence presented. It certainly appears not to have been divulged to the state. It raises further questions if the advocate is sitting on this evidence, which clearly exonerates his clients. Why is he not presented it earlier, given that they're sitting in jail at the moment? They are on trial. They've been denied bail. This is evidence that could secure their freedom. Why have we not heard about it before? So until it actually gets presented, we'll quite simply leave it at that.
And then the response of Kelly Khumalo's lawyer, I mean, frankly, she's furious. She says this is discriminatory against her client. And we know how long the rumours have been swirling, the various rumours have been swirling for years around this crime. And Kelly Khumalo has had a really difficult time. But then the response of the defence team to say, well, they're the ones who now feel intimidated by what Kelly Khumalo's lawyer is saying. I don't understand this, Barry. Perhaps you can explain?
Well, you know, without going into the actual merits and speaking on behalf of Kelly Khumalo's attorney, that I think there is justification in her concern, in her being implicated in a manner like this in a trial, but where the defense counsel doesn't put it to the witness who this witness is that is going to be called, where this witness obtained the information. It's simply put out there as an anonymous person. So there's absolutely nothing whatsoever at this stage to back up the claim that there is indeed an eyewitness that will implicate Kelly Khumalo. So I think there is understandable concern from herself and her attorney, given that at the moment it's quite frankly baseless.
Can you clear up this issue of two dockets? Now, my understanding is while you might have two lines of inquiry, and we saw that, yes, the documentary that we've all watched on Netflix, but it explained how the police were sort of divided into two groups, and one group was pursuing one particular line of theory, and the other group was looking at another line of theory. But that wouldn't necessarily develop into two dockets, would it, Barry? It would mean at the end of the day, the police would go, right, this is actually the trail that's hot, and this is what we're going to present to court. So why this talk of two dockets?
Yeah, Sally, it appears to be, you know, issues within the SAPS had got to a point, and you're quite right, there are in fact two dockets that were registered at some point, but it appears that they were not consolidated prior to going to trial. So there was one docket investigated more recently from 2019 by an investigator, but then I think this is where we mustn't get distracted, Sally. We must remember that there is just one docket that is before this court. So the defense will certainly kick up all sorts of dust, and they'll try and make a lot of noise. And, you know, perhaps in some respects there might be some merit to it, given that there is this other docket that exists. But for the purposes of the state, they must not be distracted by anything that the defense is going to be putting to the state's witnesses. They've got a docket. They've got evidence in that docket. We are confident that the evidence contained in that docket adequately identifies the people who are on trial here. And we actually look forward to the point in this trial when the state calls those witnesses, particularly dealing with forensic evidence and the like, which we understand links these accused to the firearm, to the scene, and to the murder.
So Thabo Mosia, who was the first forensic officer on the scene, he got a real grilling from the defence advocate for accused number 5 today. But having spoken to Kherinal when the trial started, he was very cautious to say you can't judge everything on just the first witness. So even if he does sort of fall apart a little, it might not mean anything in the broader sum. But there's been so much controversy around this trial. We've seen Malesela Tefo arrested in the courtroom. That became a whole story in its own. We've seen these startling allegations that he's made against Kelly Khumalo. We've seen her furious lawyer. I want to know, AfriForum representing certain members of the Meyiwa family who must be desperate to see justice and get some sort of closure. Are you at all concerned that the way this trial is running is not going to produce what the family needs, justice and closure?
Well, it's always a concern, Sally, and I think it's not just limited to this case. I mean, AfriForum Private Prosecution Unit, we're involved in many other instances where, quite frankly, the state has failed to live up to its duty to provide justice in a free and fair democratic state. So we're providing this oversight role so that we can keep a close eye on this. We are, of course, concerned, but as you just suggested there, this is very early on. This is the first witness. Of course, a witness is going to take a grilling. Mr. Mosia today, I mean, it was very much a line of attack on the integrity of the evidence, the chain of evidence, the crime scene itself. But there will be many more witnesses to come. We've got members of our team who are keeping Senzo Meyiwa's relatives abreast of developments, and most importantly, having people on our team who are experienced in trials, who understand how these things work, putting this evidence into context for them. So I think, yes, we are concerned like we are with many other matters, but we're keeping a close eye. And again, we go back to saying that we have had sight, and we do trust that the evidence that is in that docket is sufficient enough to implicate the parties who are on trial at the moment.
All right, thank you so much, Barry Bateman, who speaks for AfriForum, coming to us live from Pretoria.